It's 4 o'clock Central Time here in St. Louis. Thank you, everybody, for attending. Of course, we'll keep this open so folks can continue to join as we get started. But I'm going to go ahead and just welcome our guests today, and also just we're pretty excited here at Venture Cafe. As we've been releasing these new monthly series with a lot of our different partners and leaders in the St. Louis area, and today we're excited because we have with us the kickoff of it's called Starting from Square One. And today specifically is about idea validation, but this will be led monthly by CET and the Balsa Foundation, and Gabriela here today is going to be our host, and we're very excited. And she's going to, I'm actually going to let her take it from here and introduce our guests and jump right in. So thanks everybody for joining us today, and Gabriela, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Tyler. Hello, everyone. I'm so excited to be here with you, kicking off our first series of Starting at Square One in collaboration, of course, with the Balsa Foundation and Venture Cafe. Thank you so much, Tyler and team, for all of your support with the program logistics. I'm especially grateful and proud to introduce you to our two speakers today who I've known for a little bit, and I've been able to watch them in their journey. But before I get to that, let me just say my name is Gabriela Ramirez Arellano, and I'm thrilled to lead the Center for Emerging Technologies, which is the largest and oldest innovation center in Missouri. We are nationally recognized for providing the infrastructure and types of resources that early stage businesses need through our signature programs like Square One Ignite and the Bootcamp, as well as other workshops and seminars that we offer throughout the year, in partnership mostly with our ecosystem collaborators who also are part of this work. So I had to throw that in, part of the work that we're doing at the Balsa Foundation and at the Center for Emerging Technology. So while I have you, be sure to check out our toolkit that has recordings of past presentations from Square One, Ignite and Bootcamp, both programs that both Darnell and Devin have participated in. And with all of that being said, let's go ahead and get started by bringing you to the virtual stage. Darnell, join us from Simply Foster. Let me give you a little bit of background about Darnell. He was raised in a family that joined in the work of foster care, and now he is a third-generation foster parent, along with his wife, Anitra. He desires to channel the empathy that he has to help make more secure future for the world's most vulnerable children, and rightfully so. His favorite life's mantra is empathy is my superpower. Professionally, Darnell's experience in the innovation community has added to his knowledge of technology, entrepreneurship, and community partnerships. And he's also developed a niche for navigating innovation spaces, networking, business development, and relationship management. And I'm proud to say, as I mentioned before, that Darnell is an alumni of both the Square One program and the Balsa Foundation. So Darnell, I'll let you take it from here and have you give us a little bit of information about you and your business, and how does idea validation played into that?
Absolutely. Gabriela, thank you for having me. Thank you for inviting me. I love Venture Cafe. My foot in the door into St. Louis innovation started with Venture Cafe. And also that's how I kind of got introduced to CIC and CET, and the rest is, as you eloquently described, is how I got here. So I kind of want to start to tell you about one of my kids, Wayne. Wayne is an awesome kid. He loves superheroes just like any 8-year-old boy. But just like any superhero, he had his arch nemesis was that he was afraid of the dark. So one night before bedtime, I said, "Hey, listen, this is what we're gonna do, buddy. You're gonna walk upstairs, and I'm gonna be 2 steps behind you." So I cheered him on as he walked up the stairs. Once we got to the top of the stairs to his room, we celebrated. 2 days later, he left our home with an hour's notice. We had to say goodbye to him on a phone call. And to be honest, I was ready to quit. And not only that, his caseworker, a week later, quit her job. And I realized during the validation process, as we're talking now, that my experience was not an isolated event, that 40% of caseworkers quit after the first 2 years, and 60% of foster care families quit after the first 2 years. And that's all based around this thing called of resiliency, that the compassion fatigue of taking care of kids that are the most vulnerable beats down on the frontline caregiver. And that what birthed Simply Foster. And Simply Foster is a technology platform that builds resiliency in our frontline care workers by tracking the emotional health of the individuals, by connecting them to in-time resources, and lastly, by doing predictive analytics of burnout, of compassion fatigue, so that we can have prioritized those interventions before there is a disruption and more trauma, secondary trauma expressed to the caretaker. So that's a little bit of a high level view of Simply Foster. And the way that we validate it through CET and Square One, and through Balzer Foundation and CET Square One, it was a really more so a personal journey, more so than just a idea validation journey. Realizing that a lot of I call it the 3 Ps of people, problem, and passion. That my idea validation it came birthed out of my passion, but was validated through the people, other people in proximity to the problem that experience the same issues, and realize that this is a systemic issue and not just a personal one. So I think hopefully that answered the question of like idea validation. I can definitely go more in depth because that was really kind of like a high level view summary, if that makes sense.
Yes, and so I'm going to do questions at the very end. But before we turn it over to Devin and welcome her to the stage, Darnell, can you talk a little bit about what idea validation, what you got out of that idea validation, or how did that frame like your first and your next steps for your company and your business?
Absolutely. So there were many iterations before we landed on Simply Foster. The use of the business model canvas was extremely helpful in really knocking down some really I'm gonna be self kind today because I'm gonna say really stupid ideas, but some really 9 ideas that when they were validated didn't stand up to the test, didn't stand up to the canvas. And Christy, who runs Square One, is phenomenal. And she really helped like hone this in of like, okay, what are the problems and who can you talk to validate those problems and make sure are the issues that you solve be the real pain point, and are you asking the 5 whys of why is this a problem? Why is this an issue? Why is this an issue? And actually talking with people, going back to the 3 Ps of people, problem, and passion. Are you in proximity to those people who are having these issues? And the issues that they're talking about, is your solution solving those issues? Or are you somewhat fighting the wind, if you will, and not dealing with the core issue?
Perfect. Yes. And one of my first introductions when I arrived in St. Louis was the famous Christy Maxfield and her business model canvas. And yes, if you get an opportunity to do a presentation with her, to be a part of her class, sometimes it's hard to listen to the feedback, but it really does make a big difference. Yes,
it does. And she's phenomenal. And I consider her a friend to this day, because anytime I have an idea or making a pivot, if you put it past her, she will give you one thing. She is candid, and it's great. It's in grace. It's in a sense of care, but she will give you the real and not gonna give you the fake. Not gonna fake the funk and will have you wasting your time, which I really appreciate.
Perfect. Yes. And definitely when you're starting a business or at any stage of your business, you want to surround yourself with real people that can be candid with you, right? We do need those cheerleaders that say, rah, rah, everything you do is wonderful, but we also need people to help us step back a little bit and think through the process. So let me now introduce to you Miss CEO Mom herself, Devon Moody-Graham, who's a business and community leader dedicated to seeing a positive shift in economic development through entrepreneurship, especially in underserved communities. And she's worked with over 500 businesses and 15,000 youth and young adults in entrepreneurship and professional training over the last 12 years to bring awareness to this very fact about building wealth despite so many challenges. Her talents took her to Paris. So if any of you guys follow her, you saw her pictures in 2019 at the Eiffel Tower, where she was branching out her mom community to other areas of the world and to inspire others to move forward despite self-doubts. She is the Chief Solutions Officer of CEOMom Empire, LLC, and lead strategist in business development to several companies, nonprofits, and universities. Her experience and partnerships have brought her over $4 million in capital to small businesses. Devin has created a community for mothers that aspire to start businesses and develop professionally called CEO Mom, which landed her a spot as a finalist in SCORE and Sam's Club of America Small Business Championship competition in 2018. She inspires others to action, and she's here with us today to help us have a better understanding of idea validation. But Devin, I'm so excited to have you here. I'm so excited for all of the growth that you've done in the last couple of years as I've started to get to know you. And you've always been a big supporter of the Balsa Foundation, of course, also a graduate of the Square One program. So Devin, thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's always great to be in the same space with you, Gabriella. You really are big on making sure that you create platforms for other people. So thank you for that, because we have that in common. I love to share my mishaps. It's so funny. Darnell said, stupid, look, the stupid ideas, the stupid mistakes that I've made, but they were learning. It's all a learning process. And you laugh at those things now when you really get to that thing and that solution that you create for others. So I've had definitely a lot of ideas. Serial entrepreneur strategies being my baby, because I love to help people create that plan to get from point A to point Y. And I always say why, because when you get to Z, that's when you're selling the business, right? So I go from A to Y, and I look at all the things I've learned, and ideal validation is really a big part of that, because so many people will pump so much money into what they think is the next best thing, and it's actually not even solving a problem for anyone. They don't even have a customer that will purchase it, whether it's a product or a service, and they're not even the customer because they don't even know if they would buy it. It's just something that they've created. And so being in this startup space and having connections to so many great resources, like over the last 7 years, like I was a part of Square One in 2014, and that really helped me to hone in on that. And as Darnell said, Christy is very to the point. She's like, no, that's not making money. You can have impact and dollars. And that's how I have really worked to help inspire others that I work with.
Perfect. And so Devin, I would ask you the same. As you went through your own idea validation, and maybe you did or maybe you didn't have changes in how you saw, because sometimes we fall in love with the solution and not understand the problem, right? And when you realize that that solution may not be the one that works, you have to kind of go back to the drawing board. So as you started to validate your idea, how did that frame your next steps and your growth for your business?
You know what? So clarity is key. And so like Darnell, I have had several ideas that, my heart was in the right place. And a lot of times that passion can lead you down this spiral to getting away from what actually people are going to pay for, whether it's for an individual or for a corporation. And so really in putting things in alignment and going back to saying, okay, I can have, the impact, but I need to do this, create this solution. And I love acronyms. I wrote down Darnell's 3 Ps. I love the people, people, problem, passion. And so when I was thinking about idea validation, I created this STEP acronym that looked at when you're creating this, you ask solutions. So you need to be able to create a solution. That's the first thing. And that's one reason that I call myself the chief solutions officer of my company, because if I'm not creating solutions for businesses, then I'm not making money. You know, if I'm not solving problems for them, then I'm not making money. What does it make easy for people? What does it make better for people? And it's literally, sometimes we overthink. It's literally that simple. What is it making easier? What is it making better? And so then I look at my next part, which is that T. Who is my target customer? You cannot validate an idea without finding out who that target customer is. And we move down. I'll talk about money later because that is a big part of it. But who is this group of people that this makes something easy for, or it makes something better for? And do you have access to those people? Because we can have a customer all day or an ideal customer in our mind, but do we have the resources to access those people? Right? So with me being in the middle of, look, we're in the middle of the map. I would not go and start a surfboard company. For one, I don't have any way to do, unless I'm going to keep going to the coast. Now, eventually I can, but those people that are surfing are not directly, they're not close to me. Now I can go there and do this, and I can branch off, maybe do distribution from the Midwest after I've gone to those customers, but you have to be able to easily attain your customers. And so how do you find that out? E, you need evidence. So I'm big on research. So when it comes to surveying, before there was SurveyMonkey and all those things, I would literally, taking it back to my undergraduate years, because my degree is in consumer textile marketing from the University of Illinois, go Illini. And I had to take it back. We had paper, actually surveys. So if you need to start there and you need to get with a group of people and do that, of course, not now, it's not the best time, but it's as easy as writing down what those questions are. Now we have tools to be able to put those into electronic form, whether you're using Google Forms or SurveyMonkey. Those are two of my favorite because of the analytics. And you need to get that evidence because I'm actually taking an idea through, I'm through validation right now, and I am using SurveyMonkey for that as well, for a tech startup that I have. And then P is payment. Who's going to pay for it? If nobody's going to pay for it, you don't have a customer. And I know people say this over and over again, but still we have people who will literally pump money into things and they think they're going to make it back, only to find out that they never had a customer to begin with, because they never did the research to tweak it, to change it in a way that it was actually helping people and then paying for, the investment that you're making.
Yeah, and I think that when you talk about, having that customer, you may have to consistently be assessing and reassessing who's my customer. And I can share as an example at our restaurant when we opened in O'Fallon, because we have several universities and colleges nearby. For some reason, we thought college students were going to be our target market. Well, they weren't, because the area we're in is more established. And so there's a lot of older people and older clients. And so they have different needs than the ones that we thought. And then the pandemic happened, and, your needs and your clients are change as well too, as you've had to change your business model. So since I'm talking about the pandemic, Darnell, did you have any shifts that you had to make or revalidation of your business through the last 11 months?
Absolutely. But there were positives and negatives to the pandemic for me. I will go start with the positive. Pandemic actually made the child welfare world more accessible. For example, like one of our partners is out of Connecticut, and I made that through virtual meetings, and that wouldn't have been possible prior to the pandemic. And so that was a really positive portion of the pandemic. But on the negative side, I think just everybody would agree that it just really slowed down the grind for everybody. That people aren't really willing to invest in ideas, or that people are really just playing survival mode, especially when it comes to the economic impact. Because we're a nonprofit, it is very, very difficult to validate and find those customers, those individuals that's going to fund this project. Were difficult to reach at times. However, the partnership and resources actually were more accessible due to the fact that the world became smaller.
What about you, Devin?
So for me, I definitely had a few bumps in the road because one, I was teaching at an academic institution that had to pivot. At the time, they were not offering online classes, so that was one thing that changed. So I wasn't on the adjunct faculty, so that was one revenue stream. And then I also had some projects that were coming up that got shifted because the organization couldn't really see how to shift. But really, during this time, I have taken so much more time off to think and get clarity on what I wanted my next 2 to 5 years to look like, that at this point where I'm working less hours, I make more money. I'm now, I was doing strategy and then doing some marketing development within my firm, but now actually in March, I'll be launching a full digital marketing agency because I've had time to partner and get those things running, because my goal is to ultimately create a work from anywhere life. I want to have the same impact. I want to still work with my mom community and be able to work from anywhere. And so I've literally been taking this time to do trainings on different things, outsource those things that I don't want to learn. And me doing more of that has caused me to have, look, do you see my skin glowing? My skin is glowing. I am rested. My 2-year-old can climb on my head and I'm not upset because, I'm still sending invoices. So this time really has given me clarity. And I was able to pivot in a way that I'm able to impact more people and increase certain type of contracts and work fewer hours. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I hate to keep going back to the pandemic, but I also think that since that has been the reality of the last 11 months, it's really given us an opportunity, like Devin said, for clarity to take the time. So when we talk about idea validation, if you're already in a business and you haven't taken some time to reevaluate and revalidate your idea, I do think that that would be a great recommendation to do so, because a lot of things have changed. Even though a lot of industries have been heavily impacted, we have seen resilience in so many industries, right? So for us at the restaurant, taking, the experience we provided for customers in person obviously is not the same as the one you get through the DoorDash delivery guy, but we had to figure out a way to do business differently. And so this quieter time, I love that Devin skin is glowing now because she's had the ability to really realize, and I think Devin, Darnell mentioned it too, is that we're no longer limited by the physical space or the region that we're in, right? We now have access. Even though these things were never not an option, our mind was close to it because it was harder to do. It was harder to convince people that a company in St. Louis could still service a company in Kentucky without any hitches, or in California, or even in another country. So it has allowed us to reevaluate a lot of what we're doing. So, and we want to make sure that our audience is also going away with some key takeaways. So I do see a question in the chat from Tyler and Darnell. I'll ask you that in a minute, but can you both provide some key takeaways, whether it's a book or a podcast, or like, what is it that really has helped you hone in on your idea and moving it forward, especially through these last couple of months?
Devin, I will allow you to go first. I need to think about this first.
Okay, that's okay.
Yeah.
And so actually, I just have mine because I just said it this morning. So I have mine. So I got you, Darnell. Okay, So actually, what I'm reading right now is a book called The 40-Day Word Fast. It's a spiritual journey to remove toxic words from your everyday language. And that has really helped me in business. I recently started it, but when I think about my mindset shift, I started the book 25 days ago now. And so my mindset shift has put me in a place where I don't even see limits. I literally don't see limits. I no longer let things like the imposter syndrome, oh, you know, it sounds so scary, but I no longer let those things creep into my mind. And when it seems as if this false evidence appearing real tries to creep in and say, no, you can't do that because you don't have this or you don't have that, I literally smack it back, because I know that I can do literally anything that I plan for and anything that's within God's plan for me, which is limitless. And so that has really helped me to take certain words and actions and also check people when they say those things in my personal life and in my business, because how you are in your personal life is going to translate over, you know, into business, and it can, even though we try to separate the two. So that's really something that's helping me, and also creating processes and a better schedule. That is what really has helped me to be clear on what I want to do and the goals I have, both personal and in business. And like I said, I repeat that step method when it comes to idea validation is looking at, first, is this the solution? S. So solution, target customer, evidence, and payment. So is this actually a solution for people? What does it make it easy? Who is your actual target customer, and how do you know this? You got to get evidence. Ask these questions of people, and P, who's going to pay for it? So that's that payment. And so even in the nonprofit space, because I do a lot of consulting in this space as well with Darnell, it's like you're impacting our beneficiaries as those youth and the families that you're working with. But ultimately, you want to get the dollars from the organizations that are missing it, you know. So those people who you're filling the gap for is who's paying for it, because we want you to impact and be paid at the same time. Be paid
Absolutely.
for your. So yeah, that's where I am with it.
That's good. That's good. To pick, I hate the word piggyback because I think it's overused, but if my wife was on here, she hates that word. But neither here nor there. Well, one book that has been really impactful for me is a book called Everybody Matters. And it's the idea that of uplifting human value for everybody that you interact with, which is like really, really, really good for an individual like me, who's I'm always in a sense in a position where I'm in emotional tumultuous situations with my kids, with trauma, and the way to take that out, that gifting out of my home and put it into business, and put it into how I network, put it into how I actually use empathy as my superpower and equip, and to use it as a weapon to push the mission that I believe in. So that's the main context of it is about company culture, but company culture starts with a company founder. So the way I look at people as not as commodities, but as individuals and as people who need, who I can provide a service to, even if they're not even directly involved with my business. So that's been very, very powerful and very transformative for me.
Thank you. And Darnell, I'll go to the question in the chat from Tyler, and he's asking, when you're working with sensitive situations like fostering, how do you approach creating a minimal viable product?
That's a great question. Approaching a minimal viable product is actually partnering with organizations that already do the work. That's been my gifting. I say I compare my superpower to none of the Avengers but Nick Fury, because if it wasn't for Nick Fury, there would be no Avengers. That's my nerd talk. And my gifting is to bring people to the table. Just to network people together and to make it more efficient. So partnering with organizations that already do the work. I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel. I'm just trying to put some rims on it, so it can look a little better. And using that, people who already know, like HIPAA compliance and all this and everything that's surrounding us, things of child welfare that have far more expertise than I do, leaning on them and realizing I am not the holder of all knowledge, and I need to lean on other people's expertise and gifting through partnerships.
And the other part of his question was that he imagines it's a heavily regulated industry. So how do you break in? Is it more of this collaboration that you're talking about, or?
Absolutely. Collaboration, using other organizations social capital in a sense, because there is a sense of, especially when it comes to child welfare, an old guard, people who have been a part of this community and been a part of this work for a long time, organizations that's been around for a long time, and helping, coming in as an aid towards them, as a partner with them, and not as somebody who's trying to replace them. I'm trying to boost you up. I'm not trying to take your wheels. I'm trying to put some rims on it. That's what. So additionally, just put and ultimately adding value to what you're doing, and also make it more efficient and get rid of the things that are toxic, that we don't need to do, that innovation has created a solution for and bring it to the table in a real way.
Perfect. And I was last year years old. I love that term. I was yesterday years old when I learned about social capital. And I think that it's such a key piece of our success wherever we are in the process of our business. And so I'm excited that today we're talking about idea validation, which is the gathering of evidence around the idea that we're thinking to have in our business, right? And for the purpose of trying to figure out, is this going to even work? And like Devin said, at the end of the day, and like Christy always reminds us, are you going to make money from that idea, right? Because there's a lot of solutions in the world, but we really have to address the problems. So my next question for both of you is, within the business ecosystem in St. Louis, where do you recommend that people go to get access or resources to validate their ideas? But also, what are some tools that have worked for you? And I know you mentioned the business model canvas, Darnell.
Yes, we have access to so much low cost resources. CET, Square One program, low cost. I mean, it's less than $100 to get in. So it's like, you will be a fool not to take advantage of it. Balls Foundation, if you fill out the grant process and they give you $1,000, which is great, and also a ton of resources. Slew Start is a good organization as well for research and idea validation. They do a great job of, and especially you can get in with the National Science Foundation. So that's a great organization as well. We have a ton of organizations, and actually being a part of the community, being a part of the innovation community, get on somebody's mailing list, and get on somebody's website, and I-10 is a great organization as well. We have a slew of contacts and resources. Your local library is great. I love those. They're so smart. It's great. We have a slew of an array of resources and organizations that help our entrepreneurs. And it's all about really taking that first step, taking that square one step, if you will.
What about you, Devin?
I would agree with everything that Darnell said. The first thing that came to mind was the library. I love the library. I'm still so hurt. I don't think it's open yet. So I'm still hurt that it's not open. I spend a lot of time at the library. And I say that because if people don't already have an office space or a quiet place to go, you can definitely go to the library. I love going downtown. Just because I like the architecture. Go pick one of the branches, St. Louis City, County, wherever you need to go. Go to the library. There are people, of course, that can help you. As you say, they can help you if you don't know, if you are not able to just find it by, getting on the computer and searching. I also used to work with the SBDC that's connected with the University of Missouri. And so they have connection to I want to say this may be, it's one of the colleges, but they can do research and pull down industry data for you. So if you already know what industry you're looking at, you can ask for that information. They will send it back to you in a file. So much information, you may not know what to do with it. So try to be as specific as possible. Another thing I would say is for, of course, with me working now, I work with the SBDC on the Illinois side. Find your local SBDC. Those are free resources. They have business counselors like myself that can work with you if you're not at the point where you can pay for a consultant. We are very knowledgeable. Find those, and there are 2 in this area. So you got those to choose from. I would also say 1 Million Cups, and it's so crazy because I still have not picked So, and I had Mary say, when are you going to go ahead and do it? So I need to go ahead and do that myself. I have done the pitch with, what is the one? Genius. What is it called?
Yes, House of Genius.
House of Genius. So I have done that, and that was so great. They actually did help me a lot when I was starting to create my CEO Mom community, and that was so great to sit in that room and talk with people. Of course, now it'll be virtual, but 1 million cups. Look at 1 million cups, and also at House of Genius is great as well. And I will also say, I'm not sure if they're doing like the pitch competitions with Scandalaires. That's great for idea bouncing. I did that. Look, got $100, you know, with my idea. That's always cool. But the feedback is the best because people are real candid. Nobody's mean, but they, you know, will definitely let you know if something, you know, they're not understanding so that you can get clear, because you want to be as clear as possible with your message. So those are some that I would say in addition to what Darnell said.
And for the people that maybe are not familiar with 1 Million Cups or House of Genius, can you talk a little bit more about how that provides feedback to you?
Yes. So when I did that with, I actually filled out an application and let them know what I was working on, and then they got back to me because, you know, so many people applying, and I actually went into a room. There were, I think there were some people in the audience, but it was at CET. I came to CET and I did the competition. There are people from different industries that are lined up. I had my presentation, and they literally give you feedback, people you should connect with. Maybe think about this idea. Have you thought about this? Do you know this person? So these people, is really a great community because they open up their minds to resources, people you should know, things you should think about. Maybe you can do this in a couple years, even if it's not right now. And so that's great. Oh, Tyler just put in here about shameless self-promotion. I need to look at that. Okay, I definitely need to look at that. And with 1 Million Cups, I have gone in the audience and given feedback, but you also apply to present there. And I know people who've connected with capital, with, you know, with other people who are interested because they had their idea at a point where it was ready to either, you know, go to market or it just needed some investment. And so that's great. And the connections are great because people really want to help. And, you know, people, if you just fill yourself or go to a room that's filled with people who want to help, that's the best resource ever, because they really want to connect you so that you can win.
Right. And there's nothing like actual people giving you feedback on your idea, right? I like that you brought up the fact that in the past you used to, you know, do surveys. I don't know if you were out on the street surveying random people or outside a store or whatever. There are so many new tools that we could use. So are there any tools, Darnell or Devin, that you could use for idea validation that you would recommend other than, you know, doing surveys or focus groups?
My biggest thing is actually talking to people. Like one-on-one conversations, get it like going out to lunch. Well, we don't go out to lunch anymore, but virtual lunch, I guess you can get a giggle bite, I guess. I don't know. I'm sorry, that was a dad pun. I'm so sorry. So like the one-on-ones of just having that conversation and asking those open-ended questions, and allowing the other person to talk, to be slow to speak and quick to listen, and being in proximity in those chat rooms, in being proximity to people who have the problem, is always a good daily practice.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have any?
I agree with what he said. Just talking to people, and I tend to do that as well. Wow, especially when you're working on something totally new, and you know, you just don't know. You know that it will impact, so you've already known that it is a solution. You do have a target customer in mind, and you're at the evidence part where you're still trying to figure it out and make sure that you are, you know, creating it in a way that you can get payment, you know, for it. So.
Right. And Darnell, we have a question for you in the chat. Gilberto's asking, in your resource support services, do you offer anything for LGBTQ children that are in the foster care system?
So what we do, we're actually the bridge to resources. So that's what we do. We don't necessarily hold the resources. We make it a lot easier for those individuals to get to those resources at the time of need. And then absolutely, just supporting the LGBTQ plus community, those kids who are part of that community. Yes, makes it so fully inclusive. So it's because honestly, we're here for the common good. We're here for all kids, no matter race, religion, who are sexual orientation, and making sure that they have the resources that they need so they can be productive human beings.
Thank you. Yeah, that's really important. And if you're watching us right now and you have any questions, please put them in the chat. We want to make sure that we are answering any questions that you have and providing insight. And I do see one from Legal Services. They're saying that they work in small businesses with small businesses who are hesitant to apply for programs because they feel that they might not belong in the startup community. Can you speak to how comfortable you felt joining these events and starting to show up and pitch?
Well, I may be an anomaly because I can show up in a room of people. I'm still nervous, but show up in a room of people that look totally different than me and still be okay to talk. I know that it can be very discouraging at times, but I really think that it starts with you doing it afraid. Literally, because nothing good can come from you staying in your comfort zone at all times. It just doesn't happen. I literally planned an international conference weeks after I pushed out a baby. I mean, I was ready to go now. I was ready to go. My last daughter, I was planning it. I'm sitting there. I'm literally, I had wanted to do it, and for years, until I finally said, I put it out there, created a Google form. Who's interested in going to Paris for a conference? We're going to do X, Y, and Z. And then to get the overwhelming feedback, to connect with other women that were in Paris. And I actually connected with an entire Black expat French community because of this work, and searching Instagram, trying to find people to, just to see, hey, I'm doing this, can you help? And connected with women that were willing to help that had never met me. We talked via Instagram, and when we got there, they made sure that we were great. So you literally have to just do it afraid. And then on the end of the entrepreneur support organizations, it's up to the organizations, which is of course why Gabriella is one amazing person. Tyler makes sure that everybody knows that this is an open place and space. And so that it's up to those services and places to say, hey, you're welcome. Some people don't consider themselves an entrepreneur. That still sounds so, it's like, okay, I'm a cosmetologist and I sell products. I don't belong in this space. Yes, you do. You're in the beauty industry. You can even have an app. So it's really about changing the mindset of others that they have on themselves, because they literally have put the limitations on themselves. I know people who have vending machines who are in the beauty industry, who have apps, who have, it's really about how big you want this to be, and not even so much as terms of dollars, but how many solutions do you want to provide and create your own space and take up the space that is yours. So it's really mindset and doing it afraid.
I see why you're an international sensation now.
It's awesome. It's awesome. Just to go off of that, just kind of to come behind you, just the reality of shame is that until you push past that shame, you won't get to your purpose, and that's a reality. And if there's no risk without reward, and you have to push past fear to get to honestly get to the solution that people are waiting for you to give them. So that's a reality.
And I hear you guys talk about just get out there, stop being uncomfortable, but I struggle with networking, believe it or not. So do you have any recommendations for people that might be struggling with being comfortable joining these spaces, and how we could either help them be more comfortable, or maybe a starting point? Where's the first place that you would suggest that they go to try to ease into the whole ecosystem, right? Because it's all one big thing that's connected, but they just don't tell you where to connect that.
Yeah. Here, Venture Cafe is a good one. That's where I started. And believe it or not, I used to be very, very, like, really, really introverted, and realizing, like, the skills is just ask questions. Like, that's the reality. Like, people be interested in other people. That's like the bottom level of networking. Of really, really, people want to feel cared for. We have a natural inclination to want to connect with someone. So tapping into that need, that desire to actually be a part of a community, that need, that desire to be known, in a sense, is a reality. And tapping into that by just asking honest questions about the individual is a good place to start.
Yes, I totally agree. So relationship building is everything. People who I've met, and initially we met in a business setting, we ended up becoming friends, and people who I've met sometimes that I've met as friends, later on as they evolve, we may later do business together. So I'm saying it to say you never know what the relationship is really going to hold. So it's important that you figure out, what do you want from this relationship? What do you bring to the table, and what are you looking for? And so I think that when we are really clear on those things, and also the first thing is really what do you bring to the table? Because when you are a person that adds value to other people, and they're not always looking just to get, then things are going to come to you. I literally have been working to just create a relationship for a business friend of mine, and with me looking for opportunities in that, this week has been a great week for me. I landed 2 5-figure contracts this week. I got to say that out loud again. Okay.
Come on. Yeah.
Like, I'm so excited. And all in my mind, I'm thinking about how I can connect this person and that person. And with me looking for these things, I'm like, oh, because I can do this part, she can do that part. And with me building that team, and of course, with me launching this other part of my business with the digital agency, I'm now able to scale and create opportunities for other people, in even a bigger way. So like I said, when you are looking to add value, see how you can add value to others, and it will make it easy for you to build relationships. It literally will. So be clear.
Yeah, and Kathy's put in the post that her best advice, whether it's online or in person, is to just help others, endorse them for their skills online with comments and shares, or connect them with prospects, which is what you're talking about, Devin. So I'm hearing you guys kind of talk a little bit about it's a balance between having the confidence to just be there, and then the collaboration piece, right? There's enough of the pie for everybody. And so that's like a whole mindset shift that we talk about both in the Square One programs and in the Balsa Foundation, because at least in my experience, I could be the best taco maker, but if I don't have the mindset of where to take my tacos, who my tacos could go to, then I'm going to be very limited in my space and in what I do, not just revenue wise, but just as far as an impact. And I think that at the end of the day, as business owners, we want to have an impact beyond the wealth creation, right? We want to make a better community and a better society, and really just allow for more people to be uplifted and elevated. So I want to thank both of you guys for being here today. Do you have any parting words or words of wisdom, or where can we find you next? Devin, you said you've got a bunch of stages this week. What's your next stage that we could follow you? Darnell, you as well.
So for me, I wanted to mention one more resource quickly, which is a book that I read called The Go Giver. That is such a good book. The Go Giver, and even before reading it, I didn't even realize that that's how I was using in my personal and business life. I love to give and connect, and because I do that innately, that's why what I do, that's why I'm able to flourish, because I love to give first. And so The Go Giver is a good book, so check that out. You can follow me on Instagram, Devon Moody-Graham. I'm on LinkedIn, Devon Moody-Graham. I'm right now, I'll be doing a couple lives on my topic, Stop Being Broke, which is barely reaching our known expectations. And those are on both Facebook and Instagram. And it's really about mindset shift because it's time out. We've had this time to think, and I want everyone to win. And I know it sounds cliche, but that's truly in my heart, because if everyone is doing something that they love and they're passionate about, we'll impact one another and we'll be in a better space. Violence will go down. I mean, everything. When you literally are happier, then all of those things it's a domino effect. So I'm just wanting for those to reach that. And thank you so much, Darnell, for the work that you're doing. Really, because I have a cousin that's been she's been a foster parent for over 25 years now. So
yeah, I appreciate that. Devin, this is great. I'm definitely I need your information after.
Yeah, definitely.
So for me, just Simply Foster everywhere, all platforms. Also, if you want to connect with me personally, dj@simplyfoster.com is my email. So just email me, or hello@simplyfoster.com. So email me if you want to connect, if you want more information about Simply Foster. We're really in the middle of fundraising, and so we can push towards development, so that we can roll out and start helping families in a real way. So if you want to be involved with that on different levels, or you want to volunteer, we're a nonprofit. So if you want to volunteer, get in contact with us. Get in contact with me at dj@simplyfoster.com.
Thank you both so much. And thank you to our audience for being here with us and for your questions and your interaction. Today, we talked about idea validation, which we do to minimize the risk of implementing ideas that maybe no one wants or is willing to pay for. And I'm very grateful both to Darnell and Devin for sharing their experiences with idea validation, how they did some of that. But as you can see, idea validation is way more than just a survey and the research. There is so much more to idea validation besides actually doing the business model canvas or validating the idea. You want to collaborate, you want to reach out to the community, and definitely agree with both Devin and Darnell that there are a lot of resources here in St. Louis. So if there's a St. Louis person that can make me a new shirt, because I'm like, keep talking about St. Louis, but I'm repping Detroit, let me know. But there are so many resources here, and I know Tyler has put a couple already in the chat. Both of our guests today have shared some of them with us. I put the toolkit that has recordings of past year programming in the session. And then I just want to invite you back and hope that you will join us. We'll be here with Venture Cafe the fourth Thursday of every month at 4 o'clock. So be a part of their newsletter and check out their calendar so that you can see who our guests will be coming up. If you're in the audience and are interested in being a guest, let us know. We'd love to have you. We definitely want to continue to provide resources and a platform for business owners, entrepreneurs, startups. As Devin said, it's sometimes people just don't define themselves in a category that we do as a business service organization. I remember being in a room before and just spending like an hour and a half talking to business owners. And I kept saying entrepreneurs. And then I said, well, how many of you are entrepreneurs in this room? And nobody raised their hand. And I was like, wait, maybe I'm using the wrong word. So I said, okay, how many small business owners? And still nobody raised their hand. And then I said, well, how many of you guys sell something? And, you know, half the room raises their hand. So we also have to be very conscious of the fact that people identify at different stages with different labels. So as business service organizations, we also want to be very strategic that we're more inclusive of who those are, because if I don't consider myself an entrepreneur, then I'm not going to show up for that workshop or that class.
Right.
But definitely, please share the information. We want to hear from you. Devin and Darnell, thank you so much for having us. Tyler, thank you for allowing us the platform to have these candid conversations. And we were on several different topics, but at the end of the day, we're here for you. And just want to say thank you so much. Enjoy the weekend. I hear it's going to be amazing.
I'm excited.
Thank you, everybody.
That all the snow is melted.
Me too. Me too.
Yeah, thank you so much, everybody. Really appreciate it. Really great insights. Thanks again. And of course, for those of you who are sticking around this afternoon, we have work in progress up next. Check the calendar and we hope to see you there. Also on Monday, or on Tuesday, we'll make sure we circulate the recap of this video. So thanks again, everybody. Have a good rest of your night.